Hello again, chaps and chapettes. How are we all doing? It is lovely to see you all again, as always. I thought we'd do something a little bit different tonight, guys, and just have a brief conversation about UK/British comedies. Now, I'm talking about comedies of yesteryear, to be more specific. Comedies from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and possibly somewhere through the 90s as well. I'd like to explore how comedy has changed through the years, for the worse, by the way, and what's been eroded by what people used to find funny years ago to what people don't find funny at all now and don't want to watch. I mean, how we've gone from shows such as Only Fools and Horses, for example, that used to attract millions and millions of viewers per week simply to watch Del Boy and Rodney, to the guff that they put out now that nobody wants to watch and nobody finds funny. Now, my initial reason for making this video, guys, is because over the last, I'd say, about 5 or 6 weeks, what little free time I do actually have, I have spent watching such comedies from yesteryear. I have been sitting down with episodes of George and Mildred, for example, and Mind Your Language, It Ain't Half Hot Mum, Are You Being Served, Love Thy Neighbour, Until Death Do Us Part, Rising Damp, things like that. I just wanted to go through a couple of examples with you and give you my opinion, really, as to where comedy has gone wrong. Now, first and foremost, the earliest comedy that I have been watching recently is something called Till Death Do Us Part, which came out around about the 1960s in this country. Now, if you don't know what that it's about a bold fella basically living in London with his family. He's a conservative. His daughter is married to a Scouser socialist, so you can imagine the chaos that ensues there. West Ham supporter, and yeah, to say he is racially biased is going to be a bit of an understatement. He comes out with racial slurs such as the C word for a black guy that rhymes with loon, and the S word that rhymes with Lambo, things like that, things that would put people into complete aneurysms and comas if it was put on TV today. People would hit the roof. There would be absolute chaos. But I've got to explain how and why this comedy worked at the time, and why people this day and age who watch these videos and demonise them as some kind of horrible plight on our history have got it all wrong. Basically, first and foremost, I've got 2 points here, guys. Usually the black person who plays the person who's the butt of the racist jokes never comes out years later and bemoans the work they did on these shows. They read the scripts, they knew what sort of humour that was, and they did it willfully and gladly. And some of them even come out and say how much of a good time they did making these shows. There's also another point to this. A lot of youngsters now, Gen Zers I think they're called, are watching some of these and obviously are all horrified, clenching the pearls and covering their mouths. Oh my god, that's so terrible. But what they fail to realise is, underneath all the racial slurs that they seem to be fixated on, they don't seem to realise that the person making the racial slurs is also massively a butt of the jokes. In many episodes of this comedy I'm talking about, Alf Garnett, he was the major butt of the jokes, and a lot of them were coming from the coloured people. He would call someone a C word, for example, and they would come right back and make him look an absolute pillock. I think that's what's been missing from comedies for many, 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 many years now. The freedom to take the piss out of one another, that has been gone. It's eroded completely. When I was at school, we had a group of friends when I was at secondary school. Ripped the piss out of each other daily. Some of the things we said to each other in banter would put some people in this day and age into a state of depression. They would be in tears. I used to get called Hey Arnold because of my low, tiny ears. It didn't matter to me. It was banter. It was words. It just did not matter to anybody. I used to take the piss out of someone we used to hang around with because he used to smell, and he used to wear fake kicker shoes and Tesco two-stripe tracksuit bottoms for PE and stuff. It didn't matter. He didn't go home sobbing at the end of the day because we knew the boundaries. We knew it was all in jest. We knew it didn't mean anything. It was as a joke. And as I said, that's what's been lost in many instances in today's comedies. Today's comedies are overcomplicated. They are bloated with so much political correctness nonsense that the comedy just isn't there anymore. You can't be straight to the point anymore. A lot of people think that to make a good comedy, there has to be a certain value of shock element in it. I think that's why Ricky Gervais still does relatively well now. His shows, his stand-ups are always a sellout because he's edgy. He says things that you should not be saying in this day and age, and a lot of people don't do that anymore because they're afraid to. They're afraid to be cancelled. But we didn't have that back in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. People didn't really give a shit. Even the coloured people didn't give a shit. I read something on Wikipedia earlier today, just doing a little bit of research about this said video, guys. And apparently, another show called Love Thy Neighbour, which is equally racist, more racial slurs from the white man, but yeah, the white man's still the butt of the joke as well from the black man. DVD sales in Nigeria, of all places, are skyrocketing for a racist 70s British sitcom. That tells you everything you need to know. Even coloured people do still have a sense of humour. Not many of them, probably, but some of them still do. And I think that's where we've gone wrong, guys. We have lost the ability to laugh at one another. We have lost the ability to laugh at things that we shouldn't be laughing at. That's what comedy's all about. It's subjective. It's how a person perceives it. Some people like the shock value, some people don't. Some people like Chubby Brown, for example. He was absolute filth. He wasn't my cup of tea. I don't like all the penis and vagina jokes and stuff like that. It's just not really my cup of tea. I like black comedy. I like laughing at things that I shouldn't be laughing at. And that's lost in this day and age. And that is why comedies today don't get watched by anybody and nobody finds funny. The BBC was an absolute stalwart back in the 70s, the 80s and the 90s for comedies. It drove in millions of people to switch on to the BBC. Now it's gone, it's dead, it's dusted. That's why no one wants to pay for it. If they actually pumped out content that people actually want to watch, I don't think people would have any problems with purchasing a TV license. I certainly wouldn't, but there's nothing on there. Nothing relates to me. Nothing engages me on the BBC. I find it shit and boring and pre-programmed and just shit writing. I just do not enjoy it, and that's where comedy has gone wrong, basically. Right, that's me lot, guys, really. I do hope that was informative, entertaining maybe, I'm not too sure. Do let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these comedies. George and Mildred, Rising Damp, 8.5, Hot Mum, Are You Being Served, etc. They have jokes in there, yeah, that would make people clench their pearls now. But I found it funny, even today. People then found it funny, and I'm sure many of you guys out there who have watched it found it funny also. Taking the piss out of black people, taking the piss out of gay people, flouncy people. And the fancy people and the gay people and the black people took the piss right back, just as it should be. We should not lose the ability to take the mick out of each other. It's as simple as that. The moment we do is the moment we're walking around with our heads lolling, looking depressed as fuck and not laughing anymore. Right, that's my video, guys. Do let me know what you think of my new phone. Is the audio any better? Is the video any better? Please do let me know in the comments. I hope it does. It looks nice and clear on my end, so I hope it does on your end too. Right, that's me lot, guys. Let me know what you think in comments, and I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.